Fantastic. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, for those in person and online. My name is Fadi Qafaiti. I'm the Executive Director here at the Jerusalem Fund and Palestine Center. As honored as we are to host this event and collaborate with the DC International Film Festival as sponsors for the 30th annual film festival, the conditions under which our people in Palestine are suffering have truly no historical equivalent. For 58 days now and counting, the besieged Gaza Strip has been under a complete and total blockade, preventing the entry of all food, water, medicine, and desperately needed supplies into a region that has been suffering over 18 months of constant bombardment and warfare. To compound matters even further, Palestinians in Gaza have been suffering from an additional 42 days plus of extreme warfare ever since Israel broke its ceasefire agreement in March 18th, and resumed its onslaught on the population that survived the previous iteration of the genocide. As we approach the 77th year, remembering the Palestinian Nakba of 1948, the ongoing genocide serves as a stark reminder that the Nakba is not just an event, but rather an ongoing process. And we're watching in real time its completion through the extermination of our Palestinian population in Gaza, alongside the rapid settlement expansion and expropriations that are taking place across the West Bank. So before I begin our discussion of Yalla Parkour with our esteemed guest and film director, Arib Saitar, I'd like to welcome onto the stage Shireen Gharib, who's the deputy director of the DC International Film Festival, to deliver us a few opening remarks as co-sponsors of the event. So thank you so much for joining us here today, Shireen.
Thank you, Fadi, for the kind introduction. I'm deeply grateful to the Jerusalem Fund for inviting me to say a few words about FilmFest DC and the Arabian Sites Film Festival. Before I do, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the invaluable and long-standing support that the Jerusalem Fund has provided to the Arabian Sites over the years. Their partnership has helped us sustain our mission to showcase bold, diverse, and innovative cinema from the Arab world, highlighting both promising new voices as well as established filmmakers. This year is especially meaningful as the Arabian Sites Film Festival celebrates its 30th anniversary. When the festival began in 1996, it was intended to be a one-time screening series. But the response was overwhelming. Screenings sold out, and we quickly realized that there was a strong demand for Arab cinema in the US. That same year, I began receiving inquiries across the United States from people asking how can they present Arab cinema in their cities. It became clear that Arabian Sites was filling an important cultural gap. Since then, we've presented over 300 films and had the opportunity to introduce DC audiences to meet directors in person, such as Hani Abu Asad, May Masri, Farah Nabulsi, and many others from the region. These films offer rare, insightful glimpses into Arab society, stories we don't often see. They are sophisticated, compelling works that have screened at major international film festivals and earned prestigious awards. More importantly, they challenge stereotypes, revealing nuanced realities of Arab life and the complex issues facing the region. Many of these films have rarely shown to general audiences in the US, and we're proud to screen them in commercial movie theaters, spaces where they can be fully appreciated in the immersed experience of a dark and quiet room. Every film deserves that setting, whether it's a Hollywood blockbuster or an intimate documentary. Arabian Sites was originally a standalone festival held every October, but since the pandemic, we presented Arabian Sites in conjunction with the Washington, D.C. International Film Festival each April. This year's lineup includes several powerful films from the Arab world, exploring themes of identity, immigration, resistance, and the social, political, and economic challenges of the region. Among them are the film Aisha from Tunisia by Mehdi Barsawi, which he received an honor for at the Venice International Film Festival, Disorder from Lebanon, directed by Lucien Bourgeli, and Fez Summer 55 from Morocco by Abdelhai Laraki. We also have two exceptional Palestinian films, Happy Holidays, a moving family drama set in Haifa and directed by Oscar-nominated filmmaker Skandar Kopti, and Yalla Parkour, a deeply personal and award-winning documentary by our guest today, Arib Zuwaiter. Yalla Parkour has already received several major awards, including the Grand Jury Prize at Doc NYC, the Panorama Audience Award for Best Documentary at the Berlin International Film Festival, and the Firebird Award for Documentaries at the Hong Kong International Film Festival. We had the privilege to screen Yalla Parkour last Thursday and Friday to two sold-out screenings. It's a beautiful, poignant film, rich in emotion and memory. Through her lens, Arib weaves together her connection to Gaza with remarkable depth, her personal history reflected in her youth and through her mother's eyes. The audience was clearly moved and expressed their appreciation through their questions in the post-screening Q&A. This Q&A exchange between the director and the audience reflected how powerful her storytelling is. This is a sophisticated film with great depth. I was very pleased to present it in our festival. Arib is a Palestinian director and visual storyteller living in the DC area. She serves as head of the film programming at the Amman International Film Festival. Yalla Parkour is her first feature documentary, a project which I just learned this weekend that was 10 years in the making. We look forward to see many more of your works. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce the filmmaker behind Yalla Parkour, Arib Zuwaiter.
So much, Shereen. Test. Okay, perfect. Now, yes, and please do accept my apologies. In the heat of the moment, discussing the approaching of the Nakba, I forgot to introduce the deputy director of the Washington D.C. International Film Festival, though she needed no introduction, Shireen Gharib. Well, thank you so much once again. My apologies for skipping the introduction part. So we're here now to have a Q&A discussion session with Arib Zuwaiter, who's the filmmaker, who's the director of Yalla Parkour, for those of you who had attended at the DC Film Festival, to give just a little brief synopsis of the film before we go in and have our discussion. Yalla Parkour is about when a filmmaker, Arib Zuwaiter, lost her Palestinian mother, she also lost her connection to Gaza. In pursuit of a memory that reinforces her sense of belonging, Arib sees a video of a parkour team that uses the ruins of Gaza's bombed buildings as obstacle courses, laughing for joy against a background of explosions. Longing to reconnect with her past, Arib contacts the team and befriends teenager Ahmed Matar, who believes that parkour will be his route out of prison, the prison their shared homeland has become. Together, they navigate what's left of Gaza. Ahmed's desire to escape triggers conflicting feelings in Arib, who understands the emotional void that such a departure can bring. At this time when Gaza and its people are being devastated every day, Yalla Parkour, which is the winner of the Grand Jury Prize at DOC NYC, is a portrait of a tormented city and the perseverance of its people. The film was produced by Kenana Films, which was founded in 2018 by Basil Moulawi as a bridge for new voices, ideas, and perspectives between Sweden and the Middle East. Of course, Shireen Gharib gave a wonderful introduction for our director, Arib Zaiter. So once again, thank you so much for being here with us, Arib.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the introduction, for having the film here. And it was just such a joy to screen it finally in DC through FilmFest DC. I mean, I always say it's one of my favorite festivals. I'm very religious about going there every day, every year, except for this year because of how fortunately, the film is doing well with festivals, so I've been traveling a lot with it. So I couldn't attend as much as I hoped to attend FilmFest DC this year. But I was very, very grateful that the film was presented to the DC audience through that festival. And I look forward to discussing the film with you more here.
Yeah. And we're also very, very honored to have you with us. So the way we're going to host this event now is I'm going to start off with a few conversations and questions to ask. We'll then open up to our audience members. And then in the meantime, hopefully those of us who are viewing from live stream can post your questions online and I'll read them out at some point. So let's begin with the basics, Arib, for those who might not be too familiar with the sport of parkour. What is parkour? How did you first become interested in this high impact sport? And what inspired you to direct a film about it in Gaza?
So parkour is a sport of jumping obstacles. Free running is another word for this sport. And it was so significant for me that to discover this sport in Gaza. Gaza is a place full of obstacles. It was the world's largest prison before becoming so similar to a concentration camp right now. So everything about this sport made it so significant happening in Gaza. And then seeing these people challenge the circumstances they're in Gaza through that sport was something really touching and was a motivation for me to reach out for them. I can speak a little bit about the background of how I got in touch with them. In 2014, there was a really horrible war happening in Gaza. It was a 50-day war. It was the longest before what's going on right now. And back then, I just gave birth to my girl, and I was asking myself what a horrible place I got my baby girl into. And then suddenly, as I was following the news, a YouTube feed popped up on my laptop, and I saw this parkour team joyfully practicing parkour behind a colossal bombing in their background, as if the whole thing was a bad joke. So I thought immediately that I need to connect with them. I reached out, and Ahmed was handling their marketing and social media communication. And that was the first time we spoke, and our conversations carried on since then.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And how did parkour emerge as a sport in Palestine? And in what ways did it evolve out of the struggles of Gazans living inside the besieged strips, refugee camps? Because, of course, as I'm sure you're much more aware of than I am, it's a sport that really did emerge out of the refugee camps rather than the urban city centers.
True. I mean, the team was mostly practicing in Khan Yunis. And I would say it was more of a do-it-yourself method, how they taught themselves how to practice parkour. If you watch the film, and a lot of it was in the footage, they would cheer for each other, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and count endlessly. And I would look and listen to them, encouraging each other to do a move, even if they fall, even if they break their necks. They would just support each other, rise again, and do the movement correctly. So they had no training centers. They had no coaches to teach them. they would watch YouTube videos and teach themselves how to master that sport. And so it evolved out of nowhere. It was more of a necessity. And then as I spoke more with Ahmed, I came to understand that this sport is their way. For Ahmed specifically, it was his exit ticket out of Gaza. He wanted to participate in championships, in competitions, receive invitations so that he can finally have a visa and be able to leave Gaza. And there is something to note. Through our conversations, Ahmed never wanted to stay outside. He wanted to come back to Gaza. But the circumstances and the challenges of going out at the first place made him take the decision that, yes, if I end up having a visa, I'm going to stay wherever I successfully leave and try to get a citizenship there.
Well, that leads us, is a great transition to our next question, which is about your relationship with Ahmed Matar. How did you find him and what inspired you to work with him on this project?
Sure. I mean, it was mainly the story of finding them practicing parkour behind a colossal bombing. And there was another parkour player I was more interested in, which was smiling and challenging that bombing. His name was Mohammed El-Jaghbir. And I contacted the team wanting to talk to Mohammed El-Jaghbir because he was the one who reminded me of what I came to call the Palestinian spirit. Like, he was smiling, a smile that reminded me of my mother's smile in front of these bombings. So when I called Ahmed, I asked for Mohammed El-Jaghbir, and he told me he already left to Sweden. And we carried out our conversations since that moment. The first year was more of chats through Messenger, and then the year after, in 2015, it was when we decided we were gonna start rolling. And it was that time when he sent me, our relationship became stronger, and he trusted me enough to send me their videos, their user-generated footage. And I was able to visit Gaza, visit that moment by the sea through that user-generated footage. I wasn't looking at parkour, I was looking at Gaza. And then a year later, once he confirmed to me that you are one of us, I had the courage to gather a team in Gaza and start filming professionally.
So, why is Gaza more than other places an ideal space, in your opinion, for practicing parkour over, say, other sports?
I mean, Gaza, like I said before, it was this open air prison where it's full of obstacles. It's full of rubble. It's full of, so it's a place full of challenges, and for them to turn it into this play field was is something significant. I mean, I always tell Ahmed that to be honest, once you fled to Sweden, I feel the context of you practicing parkour was a bit lost. I mean, it looks safe, it looks boring. It's in Gaza, it looks like it felt as the place for parkour.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, for those who might be following parkour over the years, I'm sure you might have seen these videos. As soon as the ceasefire was announced and there was a
Yes.
temporary withdrawal of the Israeli occupation forces from the besieged strip, you can see videos that I saw on Instagram of like children and youth
Yeah.
doing backflips off of bombed out tanks and Nimr personnel carriers. So it
Ye-
really does add that extra dimension that, say, doing it in DC would. Or
100%. And one of Ahmed's friends, you see him in the film, Abdullah Al-Qassab, he once said that I jump, I feel free. I feel somewhere else, and then when I come down, I realize the reality of where I am. So it is the symbol of freedom that they're deprived of, or deprived from in Gaza.
Mhm. I think that takes us very well into my next question, which is that in the context of Gaza, every sort of act of life can be portrayed as one of defiance and resistance. So, in that context, how do you see parkour as a sport that fits into these categories in Gaza? And how do the protagonists' life you follow view their passion vis-a-vis themes of of defiance and resistance?
So it always takes me back to that moment. It's them treating every rubble area as a playground. It's them treating that colossal bombing that was happening as a bad joke and just flipping in front of it and chanting and so these are all without them noticing, they were acts of resistance. And there was one clip of them like climbing over that over a bombed mall in northern Gaza, where I tell them, you look like ants on top of that building. And he tells me, we own that place. It's a statement that they, through parkour, they're owning the place, they're owning Gaza, they're owning these buildings that were destroyed for them. So I feel everything they're doing is more of a statement.
Yeah. So Yellow Parkour is not only a film about Palestinian youth engaged in urban sports, but as we've seen, it's one that explores much deeper themes of life under occupation and siege through the lens of youth who are basically just trying to explore new sports and trying to find new ways of seeking the next thrill or excitement to escape the reality they live under. Could you please talk a bit more about the themes you explore and how you wanted to convey them to a global audience?
Sure. I mean, this film, I personally feel, I mean, I'm not the best person to judge since I'm the filmmaker, but my intention, it's a very layered film. I was trying to say a lot through this film, of course, with the editing process. I was able to organize my thoughts to focus. But my overarching theme was belonging. Palestine is a place where I feel it's my home, and I really it's a feeling I carry since I was a child. Since we used to go there every summer with my mother, and that place it's the safest I would feel, despite it being always under war, despite the occupation, despite the harsh circumstances. It was the place where I felt comfortable, where I felt it was my home. I come from Nablus, and Gaza is a place that I've only visited once with my mother when I was 4, and I saw her smile meet with the sea. And since that moment, I never was able to go back for various reasons, logistical, political. And I've always felt that there is part of my identity, part of me as being Palestinian is there in Gaza. And it was, I say in the film, it's a forbidden place for me, but it's part of my identity as well. So I was venturing into that place where I feel it's part of where I belong. And I was feeling joy just visiting that place through these parkour videos. I mean, parkour was not my main intention. The symbolism behind it is another layer in the film, the how defiant, the Palestinian spirit, how they can turn misery into joy, how as human beings they're able to live despite all the dire situation they're in. There's also that separation between Nablus and Gaza. I mean, it's like I said, it's one place, it's one identity, but they can't meet each other. There is also the layers of the history somehow of Gaza, like in 2005, how Ahmed was not able to visit the sea, although the sea was like maybe meters away from him. There's also the bombed airport. I mean, it was, I knew the moment when the airport was bombed, but it didn't strike me as hard as when he explained it to me and he introduced it to me. So there's also the Barkuk Castle, for example. It's a very historic site that because they have no visitors or tourists coming in, they turned it into a place where they hang their clothes. So there is if you think about it or if you revisit the film, there is a lot that you can unpack.
No, definitely. And in many ways, too, the history of parkour in Gaza kind of runs simultaneously with the history of the siege, because that's when essentially parkour started around 2005, or when it first emerged as a sport through the Gaza parkour group. So they're really intertwined with one another. The next question I wanted to ask you was, what are some of the challenges of directing a feature-length film from so far away, especially in the context of the ongoing genocide? I'm not sure when production stopped, I mean, when filming stopped for the film, but of course it was produced during the genocide.
Yes, I mean, let's go back to the idea of challenges. I mean, like I said, I started filming in 2015. The access was really a big challenge for me. I used to teach at the university, and I used to tell my students access is key. You can't do a film without having access to the place or the people you're following. With this film, I had no access, but I was determined to follow the story as it unfolded. And speaking of what happened last, the genocide. I mean, I stopped filming right before the genocide. My intention was to stop. The story will stop when Ahmed is able to go back to Gaza, and he was able to go back to Gaza before October 7th. And luckily for him, he was able to leave back or to go back to Sweden in August, late August. So everything happened while we were doing the post-production, while we were editing. And we started, first of all, losing relatives of the characters in the film, then crew members of the film, then the houses of the crew members in the film. And we thought it will be so insensitive of us to not to address what's going on in the film. And that's when, I mean, I kept thinking how to do that. And what would come to my mind is my mother and how, I mean, I kept thinking of her and how would she react to what's going on, because she's somebody who would get so emotional whenever something happens in Palestine. And I decided to do the film as a letter to her. And that's when the filming in DC took place, like filming myself. I tried to like visually tackle my presence in the film as shadows, because the idea of identity is my research, and I don't feel that like I am as Palestinian as they are until Ahmed validated it for me. So.
Yeah, on that note, how did you coordinate with the film team on the ground, and what difficulties arose during this process? I mean, I listened to a previous interview that you recorded where you said that sometimes you had to wait for physical copies of clips that they would be produced to be taken out through Rafah into Egypt by those traveling out. Other times you could get it electronically. So that's just perhaps like one of many of the examples.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I was very lucky to be working with a cinematographer there called Ibrahim Al-Utla. He is a very patient cinematographer. I would send him clips to just show him what visual language I'm looking for, and then he would film and then send me, and then I would ask him to try again, and he would do it. And the process of communication, the internet in Gaza is an issue. It's not like they don't have the luxury we have with the internet and the speed and everything. So we would try sometimes to receive the material through internet, many times it wouldn't work. I would ask them to send it through somebody who's coming out of Gaza. There are, for example, Gazans with an Egyptian passport who can move more freely than people from Gaza to Jordan. It was a process, and I mean, I have like different formats and different hard disks, some that are mine, some that are theirs, that they sent to me, and of course there is some portion of the material I received from Ahmed when he moved to Sweden. So it was like receiving their material, and what was filmed in Gaza was another challenge. I'm glad you brought it up. But at the end of the day, we were able to make it.
Yeah, no, it's a remarkable feat that you were. You speak about the youth in Gaza as being more interested in actually portraying the sport itself and the act of parkour, the raw footage, the final cuts, way more than the deeper, complex social issues and their life stories. Why is this, you think, and how did you navigate between trying to showcase the sport while also diving into their lives?
I wouldn't say this applies maybe to everybody in Gaza. I mean, I was communicating with parkour athletes, and this would occupy all their mind. I would say at the same time they would be making political statements where they choose to play parkour. And I mean, some of the footage, I'm not sure we used it. I don't think we used it in the film. Was them practicing parkour in the Rafah border when it was closed. Of course, as Ahmed says in the film, Rafah border would be closed for nearly all of the year. It would open only twice, so they would always go there and practice. They would practice on graveyards. I mean, they are part of the social fabric and political fabric of Gaza, but they had their own way of expression that I found very interesting. At my end, I wanted to say a lot, like I said before, and I was able to utilize visually what they were trying to say and contextualize it in a way that supports what I'm trying to say at the same time.
Okay, and my last question to you before we open up to the public is how the film was received by the protagonists and the parkour team that you followed over this decade. What were their impressions and how did they react to it?
I mean, especially for Ahmed, the protagonist, we were very careful to invite him to throughout the process. At the beginning, at the very early stages, we would send him like rough cuts. But then when we reached the more advanced rough cuts, we would invite him to the studio in Sweden to watch with us the film. He came once on his own, and another time he came with Mohammed Al-Jaghbir, who's also living in Sweden. Unfortunately for Gaza and because we finished when everything that's happening recently was going on, we weren't able to schedule a screening for the athletes who remain in Gaza. Our main concern was we didn't want them to gather in a place and then something bad happens and then we live with the guilt of, I mean, this is happening because we asked them to be somewhere and watch together. So unfortunately, until now, we are not able to show them the film, but we're hopeful for like reaching a time where they can watch it, and I look forward to receiving their feedback.
We all hope that very soon, not only they, but everyone in Gaza will have access and be able to not just watch the film, but gather freely without the threat of being bombarded and massacred from above. Arib, I have many more questions. I could keep going on and on, but I wanted to now open up to the public and see if we have. I already received one text from a friend who has a question to ask, but I'll ask it later. But in the meantime, we'll see. Now turn to our audience. And for those who are joining us live stream, you can type your questions in the chat and I'll receive them and ask them. Yeah. So in the back, please.
Very much enjoyed
Oh, Professor Edmond, we just want the microphone so that people can hear it. Do you have the microphone? No, for the live stream audience. Sorry about that. It's in there. Just a moment, please. Thank you for your patience, Professor Edmond.
You referred to Gaza being an open prison, which is what it was. How difficult was that? How difficult was it to make a movie in Gaza? Why did it take you 10 years? Did that change the structure of the film, the way you originally thought of it? Or did it just flow continuously, even though there were some, obstacles in front of it? And the other question is, how did you finance your film?
Oh, okay. I'll start backwards. Financing the film was a story of its own. There were many moments where I felt this, I can't make it anymore. But I was lucky enough to receive support from Sweden. Once Ahmed left, there was I was trying to find like support from European institutions, and one of the producers I met was a French-German producer. He told me, you need a producer in Sweden, and that's what I did. I asked for producers who are Swedish, and I found Basil, who was very I mean, he was very good at in pitching the film to the right people and raising the funds we need. That's the Swedish part. But for the Gaza part, it was much simpler, because people would, like, I would ask them, I want to film something, and they would tell me, no need to think about the finances now, you'll pay us later. And they would gather a crew and start filming and find a way to send me the footage. But at the end of the day, we were able to put it together, and I'm glad we reached that point. As for your other questions, how difficult was it to make a film in Gaza? Like I explained before, it is an open-air prison, and just trying to understand the material they're filming was a process of its own, like receiving the material and then sending them feedback. I mean, for example, Ibrahim Al-Utla, the cinematographer, he used to have his phone with him and text me, like, film with his phone next to the camera and send me what he's filming, and I would give him comments, and we would do it that way. What you had? It was a multi-layered question. Okay. Yes. It's a 10, like also you hinted, it's a 10-year process. I didn't anticipate for it to take 10 years, to be honest. At the beginning, I was interested in the group themselves, what parkour means in a context like Gaza. But when Ahmed left to Sweden, I mean, it hit me that his story became very similar to that of my parents. They're the ones who lived in Nablus, and they're the ones who fled. My mom was the one who lost her smile, the same way he lost his. There was a spark that was lost in him when he left to Sweden. So I always say, like, the circumstances around the film changed, and it helped the film evolve, and which also helped me reach the point of understanding what do I want to say through this film. Of course, like we also discussed the last events that happened, the genocide. It was also another layer that was external, and that was added to the film at a later stage.
Yeah, light at the front, please. Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Maysoon.
I thank you. That movie was really great. But one thing that you brought up, very powerful, the application for the visa, 1 year after the other, 1 year after the other, reflected how many of young people have been going through the same process. And Ahmed never lost his school. He went on, accepted it as a faith, and he continued with it. I thought that was a very powerful part of the movie. Just a remark. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, you reminded me of yet another layer that I was after in the film, which is I really needed to portray the challenges they go through. I mean, for Ahmed to leave, it was such like it was like a miracle that he left, and he had to. He received maybe 8 rejections, actually 7 rejections. The 8th was a successful attempt. And for him, for this visa to be, for him to receive a visa and have the checkpoint open at the same time, because it would open for a very limited amount of time. And then, as he said in the film, thousands and thousands of people will be on the line waiting for their names to be accepted, for them to flee through Egypt. It's an impossible process that he finally was able to, I mean, to overcome. And it's fascinating how we take things. We are, I mean, people. We are as holders of the American passport. We are privileged in that regard. I was once, I showed that clip actually in one of my lectures in the university. And during the break, students would come to me and tell me, we never knew that it's that difficult for some people in other parts of the world to even get a visa or need a visa to get somewhere else. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel it's another important layer and aspect that should be noticed in the film.
I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned the sort of divide, or not divide, but the wall between somewhere like Nablus in the West Bank, Gaza. I know there's this fragmentation in kind of analyzing it can be taboo, because there's a critique of the social dynamics and how occupation operates differently to people, and how it gives people some sort of like breathing space. Where Nablus, there can be a sort of structure that has higher. I'm thinking about that, and what's the difference? Why you talked about this wall, and some people try to shy away from talking about that sort of wall, because it can be taboo, because it's a critique of social structures. What makes Gaza so special? We talked about there's something in Gaza that isn't in Nablus.
I would say there are many things to discuss when addressing your question. We have to remember that Gaza is maybe, I'm not sure about the percentage, but I think it's 80% refugees. And it's also devastating that, like, for example, Ahmed comes from Al Majdal, and his family is very, how do you say, like, they remember where they're from, and they're very, the sense of the belonging to where they're from, it originally is very, very solid. So, and you have also can we call them the indigenous people, even like the 20% who are from Gaza, actually living there. So I would say that there is, when you have this, I would say, like, for example, the refugees are maybe the portion of Palestinians who were oppressed the most, who lost their rights the most. And these are this is the portion who feels maybe obliged to resist the most. But I don't agree when you say, for example, in Nablus, they have more space to breathe, or they have an easier life. For example, I have my uncle still living there. Unfortunately, I stopped going since 2018, because Most of the family even either fled or passed away. I still have an uncle there that I mostly meet in Jordan, and he tells me we are next. I mean, with all this, the occupation always gets in to the old city, to the city center, and there are always how do we say, conflicts happening in the city. So I don't think it's easier, but I would say like maybe the terminology you used, like the social structure and the circumstances around the groups that are living in Gaza, or the refugees in Gaza are maybe different than those who are living in Nablus. Maybe I'm not the best to talk about this, but this is like my interpretation from my understanding of what's going on in each side. And there is also the separation between between Gaza and Nablus. It's layers and layers of history, of broken promises, of, I mean, there is a lot to talk in that regard, and I don't think I'm the best to unpack all of that. But it's a very depressing fact that we can't even meet. I mean, I met Jihad and Abdullah, for example, in Berlin when we first when we did our European premiere for the film. I was able to meet Ahmed only in Sweden. So it hurts. It's painful to think about it this way, that we are all Palestinians. We're not able to meet in Palestine. We're able to meet somewhere else.
Thank you. Thanks for a very powerful, nuanced film. We viewed it on Saturday at Film Fest. When we think about the many layers, can we talk for a moment about the gender layer and the gender lens? I mean, I was, at the simplest level, I just wonder, are there any women, female parkour practitioners in Gaza? And then
Yes.
for you too, you know, this film was so important, as you explained, to your identity, to validating your identity, and that came from youth, but it also came from male youth. And just the answer could be no, but I'm just curious some of the gender layer dynamics as you were exploring identity in what was a very male.
To be honest, I don't pay attention much to gender. I mean, I used to receive this question of how does it feel to be working in a male dominated field. I don't feel it's a male dominated field, for example. But with parkour specifically, they were training a female parkour athlete, and I have footage of her, and I wanted to include her in the film, and I have her permission and everything, but I felt it doesn't belong to the story, to be honest. So I didn't end up including her. But there is something important to say, and that I also filmed, and it didn't have its place in the film. When Ahmed fled to Sweden, he wanted to give back to Gaza. And one of the methods, one of his dreams was to establish a training center in Gaza. And he was successful in doing that. And Jihad and Abdullah, his friends that you see in the film, were helping him do that. So they were training young girls as well to do parkour. I feel Gaza is much more progressive than you may think it is. Yeah, I think the way it's portrayed in the media, and it's all only about like pain, very especially in the Western media, like they're fundamentalists, people who don't allow for females to. No, I feel.
That's not what I was bringing at all to the question. It was more on the joy level.
No, I'm not accusing you that you're bringing this, but I thought it was
more at the level of joy too. That
Yeah.
I just wondered if there were also girls doing that joy amidst the.
I mean, so let's put it that way. The first generation practicing parkour we would pay attention to the gender, were all males, but then they tried for the second generation to integrate females as well. And just to think of parkour in Gaza, and this is, I think, a question you brought up, Fadi, was all of them had like some athletic background. For example, Ahmed used to do taekwondo before. Mohamed Jagbir was another taekwondo player. Jihad, his father used to teach sports. So it's an evolution. Something is leading to something, and I think they were trying to also bring that to include females into this practice of parkour through, I mean, they would put, for example, the other female that I had footage of who was practicing parkour, she used to teach aerobics in a gym. So
Growing in Syria, the Arab world, usually they get so scared about women hurting themselves because they look at it from the fact that the girl is supposed to be gentle and is supposed to be future, being able to have children in the future and all that, which used to interfere with the aggressiveness that was supposed to be available as years passed. You know, recalling in the 60s, 70s, you saw very excellent athletes, but they never came up to compete on a high level because their families were worried about them that if for any reason they have, because marriage is very important for future of the girl over there, on fact that this is the only economical factor that is going to secure the economy for her. That was not pushed as hard as we are seeing as the years pass and as we are witnessing here. So I think she's projecting the fact of this movie on what is there available in the culture. Gaza is not that far away from Syria. The culture in general does not encourage women. Of course, things have improved a lot after Intifada and after, which I can look at it as a great improvement for the Palestinians because they found themselves alone and they have to survive. In order to survive, you don't care about what the culture is going to say. And that plays a very important role in my interpretation of the movie, because I looked at it from the point of these are human beings that have been frustrated, there is nothing for them to do. Instead of running to have drugs, alcohol, like they do the American Indians here, they went to have their frustration through this game, which I think that's the first time I see it.
Mhm.
That movie. And that was the brilliant way of doing it, is that the boys did not get lost. They continued with their cause. Wherever they go, they will have it. But for the women, things are improving, but there is a lot of that, unfortunately, because of the culture.
I would encourage you to watch, because there is a film called Gaza Surf Club. I'm not sure if you've seen it. You see the father like training his daughter to surf, and she would take off her veil and do the surfing. And I think, like you said, with time, it's changing. Yeah. And I've seen them. I've seen the parents coming and signing their girls up. Maybe because they were little girls. Maybe that's another thing. But they were signing them up for the academy that Ahmed started. Mm.
PhD or whatever you want to call it, but her instinct of survival showed the brilliancy of that. I thought that was very powerful, especially when you were talking to your mom and what she was advising you. Because there are the ones who are really up front and there are the ones who are suffering most. But at the same time, they want their kids to succeed, survive, have a future that they never had. probably when the YouTube is open.
True.
So, oh,
We have a
sorry.
question.
I had a question, sorry. So one thing on that topic, real quick, I actually taught Taekwondo in, Sabro Shatila and Bergebrezhne. And we had women, we had girls and boys. And they were both awesome and, you know, they were all gonna be black belts, like in 2-3 years. I mean, they were naturally talented.
Oh, wow.
So I wish they'd had that opportunity to continue, but not my question. My question was, and you may have already addressed this and I missed it, but how you came up with the name Yalla Parkour as the film title? And I know you get this everywhere, but how can the masses see it? Like, I know you haven't picked a distributor, but are you close to that? Like, what's sort of the timeline on that?
Yes, I
Thanks.
mean, you're welcome. So, the distributor part, when we screened in Berlin, we had an interest from many sales agents. We felt mostly comfortable with a sales agent called Arthood. They're initially from Turkey. They live in the diaspora, the team, and they really connected with the story. So this was important for us, and there was also the cultural layer. They understand what we're talking about in terms of where we would like to screen the film and who do we want as distributors in each region. Unfortunately, still for the US, we're looking for distributors. I mean, I've received multiple interests. I'm not sure if it's gonna materialize or not. We're waiting on that, but we've been self-distributing in the US so far. But what was the first? The name. So the name comes from. I was working at the beginning with a really cool instructor I had in the university. Her name is Bridget Maher, and she was advising me on the project when I first started. And she told me she always tries speaking Arabic, and she told me, "How about Yalla Parkour? It needs to be called Yalla Parkour." And it was one of the it was the only name from the very, very early stages of the film, and it stayed there. I think I had a very different name no, but this was the first official name of the film, and it stayed with it. Thank you. Yeah.
Testing. Thank you so much for bringing the film. I had some questions. I'm a parkour athlete, part of DC Metro Parkour since 2005 as well.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm very curious. In the film, we kind of see the way that you see when Ahmed leaves to Sweden, and the way that he's training or the way he's teaching parkour in Sweden is very different. The vibes are very different from how it is in Gaza. And one of the things that I love about parkour communities is that every community is very different in every geography. It adapts to the local sort of realities. And I'm wondering, like in Sweden, it's all in a gym, it's in a closed space, it's in a box, it's very sort of muted, somber, methodical. In Gaza, people are just throwing themselves and flying and that sort of thing. And I'm wondering, since you've spent more than a decade on this, how maybe behind the scenes, how or has the meaning for parkour and the way that some of these athletes have trained and the way parkour means to them and the way they relate it to their geographies, how has that changed for them, or has it changed for them, or do they talk about it a little bit differently 10 years on? I know for me, for sure, it's changed, and I'm wondering.
I mean, I would say it changed for nearly every member except for Ahmed. Ahmed is still the most who's still training and practicing parkour. Jihad and Abdullah, they've fled to Italy, and they're not practicing as much because the life takes you places, and they have to make a living in other fields or domains. So it stopped being their initial focus. For Ahmed, it still is. And sometimes I tease him. I'm telling him, will you be practicing parkour until what age will you stop? He would say, I'll never stop. So, but he has, for example, he had an injury last year where he had to do an operation for his shoulder, and he had to stop for a while. I feel even if he stops, he pours that passion into kids, but the meaning of it, I have no idea. I didn't go into that. Into that space of discussion with him. I mean, if it changes for him, I mean, for me, it did. When I saw him practice parkour in Sweden, it gave me a totally different feeling. I mean, I became less interested in him practicing parkour in Sweden as much as I was interested in his story. And I was more interested in him practicing parkour in Gaza. I wouldn't say more, but equally interested in him practicing parkour in Gaza versus him trying to get out of that place. So it's an interesting question. It's a question I'm going to ask him next when I see.
Thank you so much. My question is, so you're based in DC, and I assume most of us live in DC, and it's kind of interesting living, you know, right next to the entity that is carrying out this genocide. So I'm kind of wondering if kind of being based in DC, if that has an impact on your work and like directing from afar.
It has now these days it's having an impact on my work. For example, I have in mind another film that I've started filming for, but now I feel that I'm distracted with everything that's happening and somehow scared. I mean, do I have the freedom to express myself the same way I used to? I mean, it's not as easy for me now to think and to explore the new film I'm working on the same way I was exploring with Yalla Parkour. I think it's maybe a phase. It's maybe, and this is what I tell myself. Maybe it's a phase because politically it's charged right now, and maybe when everything calms, the distraction will be less, and I can put my ideas back together and keep working. But yes, the short answer is yes. I'm impacted and affected.
Thank you so much for your incredible film and for being with us here today.
Thank you.
I was so moved by your relationship with Ahmed through the film, and even just hearing you talk about him. And something that struck me was one of the first conversations you mentioned, introducing yourself as a filmmaker, and he did as well. So I was curious about what the film has meant to him and kind of seeing it evolve over time, as well as what your relationship with him is like today.
Amazing question. Thank you. So he has a sense of ownership for this film. He feels it's, to be honest, every time we screen this film, for me, when we go and have a premiere in a country or in a city, or I watch the premiere, but I don't watch the second screening. For Ahmed, he watches every screening that the film has whenever he has the chance to be with the film. And I think this is coming from him wanting to revisit Gaza again, revisit his family that he has no access to right now. And I always see him crying at the end of having tearful eyes, at least at the end. I feel the film means a lot to him. And regarding our relationship, we are I would call us close friends. You know, we would always, I mean, sometimes he would ask my advice for things. as somebody who's much older and who's had gone through the diaspora experience before him. Me too. I mean, he's a younger not kid, a younger man, and whenever I need assistance with technology or something, I would resort to him. So there's this. I really cherish our friendship. Yeah, thank you.
I have a little different type of question since I haven't seen the movie. My question is, and during the discussions, I couldn't get a substance, and you, as well as some others, called Gaza an open-air prison, but I think it has changed from what it was before October 7. It has become an open-air killing field. Basically, it's like during Second World War when United States surrounded Japan and kept on bombing, dropping, atom bomb, they surrender. So what Israelis are trying to do is keep going, keep killing till they say. I don't know how the Palestinians in Gaza can surrender. They've already surrendered, in my opinion. But I guess they want to sign a surrender with Hamas, probably. Whatever it is, but it is a killing field, in my opinion. It's worse than just open air prison, because in prison, that kind of frequency of killing doesn't go on generally as it is happening. My question is, what was the summary or substance of your, since I'm not familiar with the game, that you tried to say? The reason I'm asking is, will the Israeli authorities ban your film in either in Palestine that Israel controls, or are you a revolutionary preaching revolution through this movie, or it is just a social film? I didn't get a substance of what you are after.
Yeah, I appreciate your question. I have no idea if the film is banned in Israel yet. I don't know. I have no idea. Am I a revolutionary? No, I'm simply a filmmaker. I'm an artist. I'm trying to present a cinema piece, and it's a human story. And you can interpret it the way you want. I mean, the reality of Gaza and how it used to be, I always say it used to be an open air prison, is there. And I always say this is the maybe the last glimpse of Gaza before October 7th that you're gonna see is in this film, because it's the last film that was that I know of that was filmed before October 7th happened. So I hope this answers your question, but I don't think cinema is the place for political statements or I can discuss politics in a Q&A like this, but I don't find the place to discuss it in a film. You can get whatever you want, or the conclusions you come to from seeing the conditions or the human stories that you explore in the film. But I don't think there is room specifically in this film to go into politics and to discuss. But I think if you think about what's going on in the film, you're gonna come to you're gonna have your own questions about why is this the way it is, and I think that's the role of cinema. It's to raise questions more than answer questions. It's
So you're
you.
not liberation. So that's
I mean, I would preach it outside of the film, but the film does not preach it. Of course, I mean, liberation is what we strive for.
Hi, my name is Iyad. Arif, thank you for great conversation tonight, and thank you for DC Film Fest for promoting the movie. Unfortunately, I saw the trailer only. I missed the screening. So back to the question about distribution, is there a website or something that I can go on and buy or rent a copy directly?
Not yet. I mean, we haven't reached that. The film is still in its festival journey. Once that's done, I think we will explore deals with online platforms if that's even a possibility. Let's see. We're taking it one step at a time. So I hope you'll get to know once the film is available online.
Is there a screening in any of the cities near DC coming up?
Coming up right now, not that I know of. I know it's gonna go to Spain next, and now to Korea in the coming. And I'm going with it to Malmo tomorrow. So now mostly what the upcoming screenings are happening either in Asia or in Europe.
Great. And a different question. Does the movie address or touch upon the issue of what the administration now and the Israeli government is calling for displacement? Does it show Palestinians as yearning to get out of Gaza rather than to stay in their homeland? How does it address that question?
It's more of a tension. I'm the one who wants to go back to a moment of Gaza that haunts me in my memory. But for Ahmed, he's the one who, at the beginning, you see him wanting to leave, but once he leaves, you see him yearning to go back. Again, the film does not. There are political layers, but it's not on the nose. I mean, I don't feel cinema is where we discuss politics. Again, we can discuss it here, like in a Q&A, but in the film itself, it's not that obvious that it's not preaching, for example, political statements or. Mhm.
If there are no more questions from the in-person audience, we just received two online. I had another from a friend, but so two Zoom questions we got are, one, are the people from the movie still alive? And I guess this question has already been answered. Where can the film be seen in theaters? I mean, you addressed it earlier. It's still going in
In the
its
festival.
life, and now it's going through South Korea and Spain. But I guess the first question is.
So since October 7th, it's been horrible. I mean, I'll start with the crew members, since they are the ones we've started losing, not only in October 7th or after October 7th. The first crew member we lost was was from the camera crew. He's originally a journalist, and we lost him in 2018 during the Peaceful March of Return. His name is Yasser Murtaja. And then after October 7th, we lost some of the camera team, some of the sound team, camera team. We have Brahim Lafi, sound team Marwan Sawaf. We lost one parkour player, Saeed Al-Tatari. If any of you saw the film, he's the one who was taking a selfie with Jinji, the Muhammad Zaqut, who ended up falling and having this detrimental fall. So these are the direct implications of or direct people implicated from the crew members or the parkour team. But then you have the neighbors or the cousins or the relatives of the team, or members of the team. And whenever I reach out to a crew member or a parkour player in the film and ask them how they're doing, all what they say is, thank God we're alive. But for example, my aunt's family was killed, or so it's yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing like bad news is coming day after day, and just what we hope for is for this to stop and for them just to be able to breathe.
Their souls rest in peace. Another question I had from that was received by text was sorry, was around there being any stigma of practicing parkour in Gaza, say in cemeteries or historic sites, or just in general. I grew up skateboarding when I was younger, and it would somehow piss everyone off. Excuse my language. It would make everyone really mad, regardless of what you're doing and where you're doing it, in the skate park, in the stairway and the like. So I was wondering if the question was if it extends to parkour as
It
well.
does, it does. I mean, Ahmed says this, we were treated like the crazy people of Gaza. I mean, in Arabic, we have this expression of shillat majanin, like a gang of crazy people. That's how they're stigmatized. So, but you have to understand that they were young when they were doing this thing, and being crazy is not far from you when you're young. So it can be how they're stigmatized, but yeah. I mean, I had these fun clips of them practicing with a police officer, or with just teasing somebody on in the somebody who's walking in the market, for example. So and other fun clips of them practicing in the market, and everybody surrounding them and just cheering for them, and others just reprimanding them. So it's like it's how they're perceived by each individual.
No, definitely. And one last question I wanted to bring up before we come to a close, and thank you so much for everyone for sticking around, is how can people support the Gaza Parkour group? Are there any links? Is there anything we can add in our post-production when we upload the videos and distribute it online for people to
Yes,
support?
we are working on with a platform called Shared Doc. We haven't officially started the page yet, but we have this in mind. The thing is, just delivering the money there, or the support, is just an issue. We're trying to Gaza is a very specific situation. I mean, any plagued city or country is much easier to send aid or resources there. With Gaza, especially like lately, it's been very difficult, and we're trying to work around that. I don't know if it'll work, to be honest.
We just have one last question in the back, please.
Is there a question, just a comment?
Yeah.
If you have
It's for the live stream.
Testing.
Yeah.
Okay. So just a comment on that. The local parkour community last year had a screening for a different Palestinian parkour group in East Jerusalem. And at the end of the screening, we had a fundraiser with 3 GoFundMes. One for Ahmed Matar and his family, and then two others, and they haven't been updated since 2024. So I don't know if they're active or not, but they're still on the GoFundMe page. Do you know more about that?
I'm aware of these pages, and I know Mohammed Zaqqout, the Jinji, had one too, but I'm not. Specifically Ahmed and Mohammed, I had these discussions with them, and I told them that we're working on this initiative. But since we had this ceasefire, and then things happened again, and since that time, things have been very, very difficult. I mean, yeah, I mean, we had the plan of doing our page before things became harder, and once things became harder, we're trying to brainstorm and think of ideas of how can we support. We still didn't arrive to a solution. But if you have ideas, or if things were, I mean, I would love to.
Y'all will be the first I
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, with that, thank you so much, Arib. It's been such a pleasure to have you with us here. This was an incredibly productive discussion. I'm so glad that we had such an engaging audience with us to discuss. Thank you so much once again, everyone who's here today. Thank you so much, everyone who's joining online.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
And please, the biggest applause to our staff, Donat Abbas, Tariq Nasser, and our incredible interns who are here with us today, Laith and Danya, for all your incredible work in making this possible. Thank you so much again, everyone. And again, special thanks to
Thank you.
Arib
Thank
Saitar
you.
and Yalla Parkour
Thank you so much.
and the DC Film Fest.